Okay, thank you. As I said, thank you for attending this afternoon's demonstration of Estimator Express. We should be just underway in just a minute. I just want to introduce myself. My name's Marc Brady. I'm the one of the uh, senior kind of account managers here at HBXL. Some of you have probably dealt with me over the course, possibly had a demo of me here or there. Um, so we're going to be looking at Estimator Express this afternoon. Before we get underway, I just want to kind of throw up a bit of a kind of quick poll to everyone, just make these things a little bit more kind of interactive. So I'm just going to launch that on screen, just asking a bit of a question, just how you guys kind of go about your kind of estimating. You can answer one of the questions by hand, use other software, stroke maybe a spreadsheet, or maybe you kind of outsource to a service. So if you could just answer the poll, and I'll share that with you in just a second. Yeah, this type of demonstration. This type of demonstration, we don't actually do a view because it tends to be uh, there's a lot of people in here. So yeah, the webcams unfortunately are switched off at this stage. Excellent. Right. Okay. Well, we've got all the votes in. So if I just close that, and I'll share that with you guys. So we've currently a bit of a kind of a split, really, 50-50. For those in attendance, half of you are actually estimating by hand, half of you are actually either using a software, possibly a spreadsheet, to kind of do that estimating. Obviously, estimating can be quite a tedious kind of exercise. It's a necessary one, unfortunately. And I guess it's the first impression that any kind of client gets from you. So making sure that it's certainly kind of presented nice and professionally is very, very important, and making sure it's actually accurate and a fair representation of the estimate of the price itself for the job. So hopefully that's what we'll be able to kind of demonstrate today for you guys. So that's that poll, and again, just to kind of put all this before we go into the demo, just another quick one. You can actually answer to more than one of these questions. I guess it's just kind of finding out what is your priority today, really. What do you kind of want to get out of today, the software, streamlining this. So what is your priority? Either save time, save money, win more work, make life just that little bit easier, really. You can answer more than one question as well, by the way, if you want to. So if all four relate to you, then he certainly can answer those, and we'll share that again. Should have a little kind of countdown clock going at the same time. Excellent. Okay, I think we're all voted on that. So if I just close that, and I'll share the outcomes. So 50% want to save time, 33% want to save money, 50% obviously win more work, and about 50% make. So everybody wants to, at the end of the day, you want to save time, you want to save money, you want to win more work, and you want to make life a little easier. So if those are the kind of challenges you are facing in today's market when it comes to building, estimating, running a business, again, hopefully that's what we can kind of show you in today's demonstration. Right, so let me just hide that, and let's get the show on the roads, and I'll show you Estimator Express. So for those in attendance, I do recognise some names. You might have seen me go through this before, so it might just be a bit of a refresher. And for those that haven't seen this before, I'll be doing a pretty kind of standard kind of demonstration we do. And as I said, do please ask questions all the way through the demonstration, and we'll have that kind of get together Q&A session at the end. So what you're essentially kind of looking at on screen now is the dashboards. You pretty much kind of home screen, really. As you kind of build up your estimates, this is where you'll kind of locate your work. You can kind of scroll down that little kind of window at the front. that will kind of give you access to any kind of previous work. So again, if you've got quite a lot of work coming in, and you might be kind of estimating 2 or 3 jobs at the same time, then obviously just being able to kind of quickly access your jobs can be done in this list here. As you build up your estimates, you'll actually be able to kind of set the estimate into a job status. Now that job status will then kind of appear in little boxes on this right hand side. So again, just kind of bringing your attention to maybe kind of waiting a reply from a client, jobs that might be kind of starting soon, just a little reminder, they're starting soon, ones that need to be completed that haven't been done yet, and we've also got one up here that's actually in progress, and then it gives you a little kind of who doesn't like a pie chart. You've got your little kind of pie chart here that kind of tells you where all your jobs are, and very importantly up here as well, what your overall success rate for your estimate. So obviously if the column of jobs lost is exceeding the jobs won, then maybe it could be a time to kind of sit down and analyze how you're approaching your work. But obviously if the other we start seeing more kind of win rates than loss rates, then you're obviously doing something good. All right. What I'm just going to do, just going to explain a little bit about how the estimate, or how we work out that price, or that price, or that price, how it arrives at these prices. So the software is actually built upon a price book. So within the library, you have access to your price books. Now, whenever anybody kind of installs our software, they actually get this price book as default. This is the default price book we roll out every time someone downloads our software. It kind of breaks down into 5 different sections: materials, labor, plant, subcontract prices, as well as sundry items. I'm just going to go into the materials section and give you a kind of an idea and an overview of what's kind of going on in here. So as I said, out the box, what you've got is these materials in here. You get a little description on the left hand side, what the overall kind of list price is, what the overall purchase price is, who's supplying that. So we call it the HPXL Price Tracker Plus. And the reason we actually do that is, let's say, for example, you're doing a job, you want to know how much you can get your building sand for. So I'm just going to go shopping on Google. Obviously, what that's going to do is return lots of different builders merchants with lots of different prices, either in the kind of shopping section of Google, or if we kind of click all, we can actually go into particular builders merchants. For example, if I go into Selco, depending on where I'm actually buying that, we're obviously down here in Bristol. So if I was buying that as a builder in Bristol through Selco, I could probably get that for about £34.45, excluding VAT. If I'm kind of shopping a bit more kind of London way, then it's going to jump up considerably. It depends on where you buy it. So what we do as a company is we actually track what the overall kind of market conditions, what builders merchants are actually selling the materials for, and that's why you've got the HPXL Price Tracker. So if I looked at my building sand in the software, which is that one there, we've got a price in there of £41 list price, and obviously £41 for my purchase cost. Now what that is, that's an overall market average, depending on what the market conditions are. So we do track these prices and see whether or not they increase or decrease in value. And then what we do is we then make or work out what the average is, with a bit of a kind of an overall kind of builder's discount in there anyway. Now, if I wanted to kind of bring that down to my Bristol Selco price at £35.45 for a ton, you can actually edit these prices. All I'm doing there is clicking on edit price. Now, what I can do, I can tell the software I no longer want HPXL to manage that price. I want to do it myself. So I can untick that box. It means it will never change whether or not the average goes up or down. And then what I can do, I can take that £35.45, type it in there, and I've actually changed that material to my own price. Now, I know I'm going to manage it because it's gone red instead of the normal kind of black font. It's actually gone red. So going forward, I'd be managing that price myself. But an alternative way of doing it is, rather than managing it yourself, what we can do is we can let HPXL manage the increase and decrease, and then what I can do, I can, 35, 45, so it's probably, I'd have to work out what the percentage is, probably about 13%, isn't it, ish, 12.5%. Oh, 1 sec. There we go. We'll do it at 13%. So what I've done there, I've left HPXL to manage the market, kind of the rise or fall. But what I've done, I've put my own little kind of adjustment on there at 13% or minus 13%. So my net purchase now is 35.67. Now it just means that if the market average goes up or down, it will track it against that adjustment and then change that price accordingly. So I'm not really having to worry about it anymore. HPXL can do that for me, kind of going forward. All right. As well as editing your own prices, you can also create new ones. So if we're on that building sand bulk bag and I do new resource, what I can do, I can name it whatever I like. I can put whatever technical name in there, description. For the customer, I can put on the quote, I can just call it building sand. I can change it to that 35.45. I think it's 35, yeah, 35.45. I'm not going to adjust it. I'm going to put 0 on there. So my net purchase is 35.45. And from my merchant list, if I don't have them already, if I try and put Selco, and I might have kind of put them in previously. Oh, no, I haven't. So what I can do, I can say that that material is coming from Selco. And if I do order from Selco, they can probably deliver within the week, maybe 3 to 5 days or whatever it's going to be. Now, that's important because when we do the estimate, the software will then tell me when I need to order that material based on the lead time. So it's going to be on X date. It's going to give me a week's allowance to do the ordering. And you can also see down here, this will actually increase my order quantity by 25%, because it's going to allow for a wastage allowance of 25% on my sand. If it's like a door, obviously you're not going to order 1.25 of a door, but what you can do is you can factor in 25% there, where it will then kind of put some little allowance on the estimate. If in case the door is damaged, you have to get it replaced, there might be a delay, we can change it there. So it's not going to change or increase the order quantities by 25%. And by clicking OK, that's now my building sand in there, 35.45, coming from Selco, and they're now a supplier in my software to be used. Alternatively, you might, don't know if anybody's picked up on that, but with our software, you can link it live to TradePoint. If people do use TradePoint, you can link it live. I've just got a dummy account in here for TradePoint, and we also link it in with Travis Perkins. Unfortunately, I don't have a dummy account with Travis, and Travis only link it in if it's a live account. And with that, Travis being linked into your live account, with your permission, we get access to your rates, your discounts. So when you do, once that's all set up and you do a download prices, Travis Perkins will appear, and you'll actually then have your discounts in this column based on how much you're actually saving by buying through Travis Perkins. So Travis Perkins is the merchant link. TradePoint is another merchant link, and another one we use is actually a windows and doors company called Crystal Direct. If anybody's used Crystal in the past, then great. If you haven't used them, then who they are, they're a windows and doors company, manufacture bifolds, roof lanterns. You can actually see their products online. So that's what they're building, making, and then selling to the trade. So if I just kind of pop in as a location, I'm just going to do, let me just do one that I've probably done in the past. Let's do RG 6. So if I put any kind of postcode in here, it will actually tell me who they're supplying in that kind of postcode area. So all these little kind of icons are who Crystal supply. They actually nationally supply B&Q for the windows and doors, TradePoint as well. Some of the platinum partners in that area, Buildbase. So if you've bought any kind of windows and doors through Buildbase, you're probably buying Crystal products, Blanchford's in that area, Buildbase again, Excel, Plumbing Supplies, Screwfix. You can get their products through those. Grant and Stone, Buttles, Lawson's. They do supply to a lot of merchants across the UK. So again, we've kind of partnered up with these guys. You can actually estimate using their products, and rather than you kind of going through these little kind of icons or going into these stores to buy them, what you're doing is you're actually buying the products directly through Crystal via the software. So you're kind of getting them at cost price. And again, I'll show you that once we're in the estimate. So that's the material prices in here. Again, if anybody's got any questions, do fire away and we'll probably answer towards the end. The other section of the price book, always get asked about our kind of labor rates. So what the software, again, is kind of pre-populated with all these different kind of trade gangs, brickies mates, bricky animate, four brickies and 2 mates, joiners, electricians, all the way down to plumbers, plasterers. They're all in here, and they all have a kind of a guide price. Again, we do recognise that, and every single demo I do, I always end up kind of changing it in here. But what that £25 is representing is if you multiply it over an 8-hour day, just to make sure my math is correct, it should be £200 a day. Yeah, you're looking at about a £200 a day rate. Now, obviously, it will differ builder to builder, company to company. So what I can do here, I can en masse select all those just by holding down the kind of control key. If I right click and edit resource, what I can then do is do a mass adjustment. I can do this on materials as well, by the way. Let's say we want to kind of be being down here in Bristol, might want to maybe kind of drop it by about maybe 10% or so. And then what I've done there, just very, very quickly, taken my bricky rate down to £22.50 an hour, multiplied by 8, so that's about £180 a day rate in the software. So very, very quickly you can alter and edit your labour rates to reflect your own business. I'm just going to kind of take them back to 0. All right. So yeah, it's all editable. You can put in your own ones as well. Do what you like with that. Plant items, again, they're in here. So all your skips, block cutters, plate compactors, wheelbarrows, angle grinders, jigsaws, they're all in here for you to use. Anyone using a contractor, you can add a subcontractor price to the estimate. And any kind of sundry items, engineers fees, design fees, legal fees, setup costs. I just kind of look at it, if it's a cost to yourself, it's a cost of the job, then make sure you kind of allow for it, and there should be a section in the price book to kind of do that for you. The other thing to certainly kind of make sure, especially if you're estimating with it straight out the box, is just make sure your markup reflects your own kind of business. Out the box, I think it's about a 15-15 split. Again, you can adjust that. There is an overhead column. You can put a percentage in, and also how much profit you want to make on top of that. So when we do the markup on the job, we've got a 25% markup. There is a report once the estimate's been done that does actually kind of show the difference between the markup and the profit column. So you have 2 separate columns. You can see how much money is being allocated to the overhead of the business, how much is going to be clear profit. So there is lots of reports off the back of this. That's it there, sales price including overhead and profit report. And what you can also do as well is if you're estimating for the client that the job's not due to start in a couple of months, if not 6 months down the line, what you can do, you can apply an inflation rate to the estimate. So you can get that stuck onto the quote from when you present it. We can put in 2.5%, 3%. Don't delay the inflation kick in. So the client's actually got a price that's allowing for any kind of future inflation on materials and labour. It just protects your profit. So that's not any kind of future increases aren't kind of eaten into here. And again, you can actually say to the client that it's a future-proof estimate up to the point of when they actually want the job to start. Nothing's going to change. So again, give yourself a bit of an edge over what other competitors aren't doing. Excuse me, just while I have a sip of tea. So you can adjust those values just in this section. Again, it can be found in the library just under overhead, profit, and inflation. Now, when we do the estimate, I'm going to talk about the specification. Now, the specification, in a nutshell, pretty much kind of lays out what type of materials and labour gangs you're actually going to use on any kind of type of job that you do. So there's a spec for extensions, there's a spec for new build. Just the main differences being, if you're doing an extension, it's going to go into this very briefly. I'm going to probably do a little bit more once we get into the estimate. So what the specification is saying is, if you're building a cavity wall, these are the items that you're going to have to do. So these are this is your kind of to-do list. You're going to have to build your bricks above the DPC. And then what the specification is doing is actually saying, right, what material do you want to use? Now, again, we've set it out the box that it's all been set up with some default materials, i.e., if you're doing the bricks, the brickwork above the DPC, we're saying that you can use an 80p brick as your kind of default brick cost. All right. Now, you can change it if you, as a business, historically, currently use a different cost of brick, then you can change the resource. What that now does, that opens up this kind of floaty window. That's actually your price book now it's looking at, and it's now looking at all the kind of bricks in the price book. And what you can do, you can change it to a 90p brick or a pound brick or a £1.20 brick. All right. Now you can do it on the fly in the estimate, but you can set the software up as default to always use that cost of brick for all the bricks above the DPC. So if I select that, what the software is now saying is if you're actually doing that at bricks above the DPC, you're now using this 90p brick, and our kind of estimated rate is £54 square metre. Obviously, anybody sitting there with a calculator or just doing the maths in your head, 60 obviously times 0.90, we've got £54 a square metre. And what we're also saying is we're actually using 60 of those bricks for every square metre we actually lay. So that's the reason why it's kind of working out that kind of 60 times 0.90, because we're using 60 bricks over every square metre. So that's the calculation, that's the rate that it's actually applying every time you actually build your wall. So if you obviously build walls that are 30 square metres in size, then it's going to calculate that square metre rate against the size of the extension, the new build, the garage, whatever you're going to be building. Everything in the software has got a rate. If you're putting down a cavity insulation, we're actually working out what you're actually using. It's 100 mil, and that's going to cover 5.46 square metres. So again, we're applying a £13.45 a square metre rate for the cavity insulation. Or if you're doing any kind of building sand, the sand's going to be below the DPC. Again, we've actually got a rate that's being applied, and these rates are pretty. We've been doing this for over 20 years now. They're pretty robust rates. They can be changed. Maybe your brick sizes are such that you're only using 54 bricks a square metre. All right. If that's the case, then it's going to change your estimated rate. So any of these values can be changed. They're not set in stone, but they are, again, I guess, a guide. All right. Sorry, can you guys actually hear me okay? Sorry, someone just said that. Am I coming through okay? Yeah, cool, thank you. Not sure what the problem is there, I'm afraid. It might be that your own speakers have maybe kind of popped. Um, so that's you been able to kind of change these rates in here if you want to. Also, as well, what's also going into the cavity wall insulation, it's not just these materials that are going to go in to build it. I mean, even down to like skirting and etc. and all the kind of decoration finish. But it's also now kind of assigning who's doing what, as in your kind of labour gangs. So those bricks that we've just been chatting about, that's the gang that are actually laying those bricks above the DPC. Now, they're obviously in our price book at £65 an hour. That's our £200 a day rate. And what we're saying is it takes 1 hour for that gang to actually do 1.66 square meters of laying brick above the DPC, which again is a bit of an industry standard rate. But again, your gangs might be faster or slower. If we're saying they're going to do 1.4 square meter, it'll be 46, 43. If they're a little bit faster, they're doing 1.8 square meters an hour. It's 36.11. So that will have an effect on how many hours are going to go into building the extension, and I guess that will then go into how much cost is going to be spent if you do start changing your kind of rates and stuff in there. All right, excellent stuff. Even down to like your mini digger to actually excavate the trench, skip to actually dispose of any spoil. Now, the reason why we've got different specs, if I just go into the new build spec now, so I'm just going to click on that new build spec. I'm going to go to the same cavity wall specification. If I just kind of scroll down here, on an extension, we're using a mini digger. On a new build, we're actually going to use an excavator. So that's the difference between some of the specs. They'll have slightly kind of higher rates. Maybe they've got more plant. They've got a bigger vehicle to obviously dig out all the excavations on the new build. There's more area to cover. Probably got more room as well to cover. And to actually remove the spoil rather than a skip, we're actually going to use a tipper to actually get rid of it. So that's why there's variation on the specs within the software. And again, as I said, you guys can kind of change them to your heart's content. I think even laying the bricks on a new build is a slightly different rate than an extension. We're saying they're doing 2 square meters an hour for a 2-in-1 gang on a new build. So yeah, that rate does slightly change. So that's the library. Yeah, I mean it's maybe kind of worthwhile for those that are maybe kind of getting into the software. Just investigate it, have a look, see what's in there, make some changes if and when you need to. If you're a little bit too worried about making any changes, speak to our support team and they can kind of guide you about what changes you kind of want to make while we do that. So I'm just going to have a quick sip of tea once. Right, okay. Right, I'm going to click on the dashboards. This is going to take me back here. If I want to create a new job, very, very simply, create a new job there. You're now met with 4 options. Today, we're just going to be focused on doing the estimate using Estimator Express, but for those that have maybe got plans, looked into Plans Express, there is an element where you can trace over an existing plan and do a takeoff directly from our Plans Express software. Quite a popular little demo we do. So that is another option. But we're going to be kind of focused on these kind of templates up here. There is also an option at the very bottom. Now, as I said, we've been doing this for over 20 years now. Before we came up with these templates, that was the old-fashioned way of actually starting your estimate. We've left it available. Some of our older users still like to kind of do it this method, call it our kind of legacy users. So that method is still available. But I would certainly say the more popular method is either using one of these templates. Now, this top one, is using a standard job template. These are already kind of some predefined templates, and again, that was kind of born out of the our users' kind of feedback, saying that they do a lot of repetitive work, very similar styles, very similar shapes. So we came up with some of these templates here. If the template within here doesn't fit the job, then you've got an option down here to actually do it as a custom job template, where it's a bit more of a blank canvas. You kind of add the elements that you want. But this is also good for renovation work. Obviously, lots of renovation work can be very kind of bespoke or very customized. So you can use the second option down for renovation work, or if it's like a custom extension, very, very grand designs type, you can kind of do that. This top option, if I just click on it to start the job, I'll show you these templates in here. I've actually got all my new build templates active, as well as my extension templates, and we've also got some garage ones down there. You can filter this. If it was just the extension version you were looking into, then these will just be the ones that you'll have access to. They're all kind of varying shapes, 3 sides, different kind of roof, apex roof. This one's got an apex, but it's got some valleys coming off it. This one's a hip valley, hip abutment, typical kind of standard lean-to really. Or if you've got a mono pitch where the wall's gone all the way up and the roof's kind of really pitching up here. Flat roof, very popular at the moment. Lots of flat roofs with lots of open space, big bifolds, windows, variety of door finishes in there. This one here is actually a corner infill. So what we're doing, we're actually got a 2-sided extension here. We're actually built this open wall section here is actually where we're building off the wall, the existing wall. That's just the same shape, but obviously a flat roof. These ones here probably don't get utilized enough, but what this is actually like a corner infill. So we're actually building off the existing build, where we're actually kind of putting an apex at the front and a lean-to running down the side. Probably the picture doesn't do it justice, but there's a lot of technicality going on behind those ones. Lots of steels and stuff going up, taking down existing walls, opening everything up as well. So that one, apex at the front, lean-to on the side. Similar shape here, corner hip with a lean-to running up the side. And this one here is more of a corner infill, where it's a flat roof coming out and a flat roof kind of going back, and there's also a little return just coming down there if you've got one. There's these 2 shapes. These are any shape really. It just cares about the overall length and height. So if you have got a flat roof that's maybe got a small return coming off it, or you've got one that's got a very kind of strange kind of roof shape, you can use those. And these are getting into kind of double story kind of extensions, as well as conservatories. These are all supplied, all the glass is supplied through crystal. What you can also do with these templates is, say for example, we've got a job where we've got a lean-to at the front, and maybe a flat roof on the side or at the other end of the property. So maybe we've got 2 extensions we're building. We could do the lean-to as the first estimate, and then from within the template we can actually load another template. So that's quite good if you've got very kind of the strange shapes and stuff to it. You can use these to kind of build up bigger projects, especially if you've got like some double stories going on. Maybe you've got a lean-to on one side, a double story on the side of the property. Maybe that's got a lean-to or a flat. You can then kind of add another template to it. What you can also do here as well is you can actually filter off using the wall finish. So rather than doing a standard brick finish, we can do a block render finish instead. So it slightly kind of just changes the texture on the template, and also stone as well. So if you're building in an area that you need to do a stone finished wall, you can load it up as a stone. We'll keep it nice and simple today. We'll do an extension, a brick one, but to be fair, it doesn't really matter what kind of extension, what template you're going to load up. The principles are pretty much the same, whether or not you're doing an extension or whether or not you're actually doing a house builds or even the little kind of bungalow you can load, or if you're actually doing a garage. But as I said, you can, if you're doing an extension, then you want to add a garage to it, you can then just choose the garage template, then attach that as an estimate. So yeah, let's choose a nice kind of straightforward lean-to single-story extension, and we'll load that up. So bear with it. It is loading. It is actually doing some estimating. Right. So here we go. It's bringing this in now. So this is our template here. Now you'll notice on the top right-hand corner, we've already got pretty much kind of a starter price really. 17.5 for construction. 4.5 for your profit and overhead, so my kind of 25% markup, and then we've got a sales price there at 22,042. If you do kind of move your mouse over the top of that, it does give you a bit of an overview of costs by build phase, little kind of charts. Developers like charts, like the pie charts and stuff. Or you can do a little bit more of a kind of cost breakdown by clicking that button. And then that will kind of take you into the slab, for example, already doing some estimating. The roof's already kind of doing some estimating. We can have a look at some of these initial costs already. And the reason being is we're already estimating a 6x3 extension with a 45-degree roof pitch and a 2.4 meter high wall. So these are just some of the defaulted values that the template loads from the off. But like everything, you can change it. Let's say we want to kind of extend those walls out to 4 meters. And you'll notice there the price has just jumped up. And we can decrease the length of that wall. And again, the price will go down 25,817 now. We can increase the overall height of the walls. The ceiling height take up to 2.5. So that's just the now kind of recalculating that. And again, we can also change the pitch. If we want to make that a little bit shallower, we can do a 20-degree pitch. So any of these values can be changed. Now, when the software estimates this job, these two boxes here are ticked. So what we're doing, we're assuming that we're going to plaster throughout. So what that does, if I hover over that, it's plastering walls, floors, roof, windows, doors, structural openings, and also plastering to the connecting wall here. So it's kind of doing that as default. And it's also allowing for decoration throughout the job. Now, if the client wants it decorated or they want to do the decorating themselves, then all you have to do is just untick that. And then what the software will do is actually take away all the decorating allowance for the job itself. All right, so nothing will be decorated now. All right. Again, that's if the client wants to decorate. I'm just going to leave it in for today's purposes anyway. But just to kind of let you know, you can take away the decorating or plastering finish to the estimate. What it's also going to do is make good this wall here. I'm actually going to form an opening into this wall, but this will allow for external, internal finish on that wall, re-skim it, add any skirtings, replace any skirtings that have been damaged. The cavity wall depth, so below the site strip, we're actually going to go 900 mil deep. Again, if the conditions are such that you're going to have to go a little bit deeper, you can adjust that value there. And if you're doing any kind of single skin walls that are going to have foundations, again, you can increase those depths as well. All right. I'm going to leave it at 900 mil because I want to show you if I do change stuff up here, it has a cascade effect all the way through the estimate. Now, remember, I kind of said we were going to be using or we're using a specification because we're doing an extension. The software is automatically loading an extension spec. So what I can do, I can actually change, we call it a mini spec, these little kind of standard areas that we can change. So we said we were actually going to use an 80 pence brick for that. That will be the kind of default brick cost when it loads in the extension spec. But what I can do, if the clients turn around and say that they want to use a slightly kind of different brick cost, maybe last minute change, what I can do, I can go in here and actually just increase that overall brick cost to £1.20. The tile it uses out the spec is going to be a plain tile. Again, unless you want to specify that you want to use a slate tile, maybe they want a Welsh slate or something on the roof, we can allow for it here. If they want to change up the guttering, they don't want the plastic. They want a steel. They want an aluminium gutter on there. That's absolutely fine. We can allow for that in the estimate. The bars board is going to be plastic unless they specify they want timber ones. Probably a bit of an old-fashioned thing, but my house has got bars boards, timber ones. So, but if they just want to stick with the plastic, just leave it as it is. And maybe this particular job, it is a rear extension we're doing, and we can't get the planting to dig out the excavations. So what I can do, I can actually go into a manual labour dig and change that from the mini digger we were going to use, and do it as a manual labour dig. So by clicking OK, what that's now going to do is swap out those materials, replace them with the new ones, and we've actually now increased our job by about £1,100 by making those changes. Okay. Once we've kind of made those changes, what we can then do is just click on that little button there, press complete, and what that does, that kind of hides that section, just kind of makes it disappear. So we can then move on to the next section, which is going to be initially kind of the walls. But bear in mind, we've already told the software the length of that one, the length of that one, the length of that one. This is just really confirming the our overall kind of wall widths and cavity widths. It does kind of default it to a 340 and 140 mil wide. Again, you can adjust these if you need to. It's just assuming that you're going to have to comply with Part L building regs, but I can adjust those if I want to. Now you'll notice these kind of three buttons after each and every section. The first button, if you click on it, it will just kind of take you into the dimensions you're actually estimating with. You've got a 2.5 meter high. That's how high we said it was going to be. We've got 13.5 in total length of the walls. That button there allows me to kind of go into the gable. So it's actually based on the pitch. It's giving me a width and a height, and it's going to work out what the trigonometry of that is as well. We're also, as I say, going to go 900 mil deep for the depth of my trench, 600 mil wide for the width of the trench, and it's also going to allow 500 mil for the concrete fill. So again, these are all being set up automatically to give these kind of allowances. Now you'll also notice there, plank and strut excavation, it's saying no. So it's not actually reinforcing this trench. Now, if I had actually changed that value to 1.2, then if we went into the dimensions here, what the software automatically has now done is given the depth of the trench at 1.2, but it's now increased the overall concrete fill here. So it's actually now taken up to 800 mil deep. And what it's also done is put in some reinforcement because we're having to go a little bit deeper on that excavation. All right. So if you do change anything up here, it does kind of cascade through here, and some of the values will then be recalculated based on what you tell the software up here. All right. This is now our kind of footing that's going in into the trench, just a cut through section there, just to kind of show you the wall going in, and then all the block heights, the brick heights, etc. are allowed in here. It is insulating, just to make mental note that it is are to be insulated, and also having a separate DPC in there as well. And what it's also doing is actually not just the external leaf, but also the internal leaf. It's going to plaster and decorate the internal leaf, as well as putting in the skirting boards, as well as the priming and decorating that skirting board as well. All right. So that's just a button there, takes you into the dimensions, and you can just have a look at that. Also as well, you'll see here you got area of opening, it's set to 0. That automatically gets updated when you put in windows and doors. So it will kind of form openings automatically for you if you are putting in any kind of windows and doors into the new walls you're building. All right. Second button along is actually resources. So this will kind of give you a breakdown of what resources you're actually using on the estimate. If I just kind of skip along to the outside shell, so our kind of bricks above the DPC, if I just hover over that, it just tells me it's a £1.20 brick. It gives you a little bit more kind of information here, as in how we're kind of estimating that. Our estimated rate is actually £39.57 a square metre, because the bricks are £1.20, and we're obviously using 60 bricks a square metre. So our estimated rate there is £72 a square metre, and that's actually now telling me how many bricks that we need to order. 2,493 bricks will actually be required to actually cover, and that includes wastage of 5%, to actually cover a job that's 39.57 square metres. All right, so that's applying our magic kind of estimated rates to that element. So again, cavity insulation, 39.57 square metres, and again, it's got your kind of estimated rates down here. Now, if I want to change the brick cost at this stage, I can do. I can drop that list down, so we can change it in here as well if we want to. If we want to take it back to an 80p brick, it's going to take it back to 48 square metre. Bricks themselves won't change, but obviously the cost will. Or if you want to put a very specified brick in there, we can overwrite, we can put a new resource in there. We can call it customer brick if we want to. Just copy that, paste in there. That could be customer brick. They want it at £1.22. They're getting it from whoever they've kind of sourced it off. Maybe they're kind of getting that from MKM as a supplier. That brick probably takes about 6 weeks or 8 weeks to be delivered. 5% wastage, and then what you can then do is put in your own customer brick, and then that will give your own rates, and then we've just swapped it out with their own brick cost. All right. Skirting board can be changed. Anything can be changed in here really. This kind of other one, this is looking more at the overall kind of estimating calculator. So our overall kind of brick cost, wall cost is actually 12,209, because these dimensions are going into it, and these kind of calculated resources with their kind of quantities are being estimated just down here. So it will be telling you everything that's required on this job down here, and also how many hours are going into it. Because again, the 2 brickies and a mate, they're being calculated in an hour, how what they can lay. So again, based on a 40 square metre job, it's going to take just shy of 24 hours across this project to just do the bricks above the DPC, less any openings. But they've obviously got other jobs to do as well, so that will kind of accumulate, and you'll have a nice report giving you the overall amount of hours that are going to go into the estimate. So that's what those 3 buttons do. Whether or not you go into them that often, again, maybe initially, I would certainly encourage it just to kind of get an idea and a feel of why the software is arriving at that price that it is, and then just to kind of give you confidence that the software, when it's estimating a wall, it's estimating all the components that it should be. Once we're happy with the section, again, just press complete. It will disappear. You can go back into it, but it'll then kind of take you onto the next section, which is going to be the floor. It defaults it to a slab with a ground bearing finish, but we can kind of change that to a ground bearing and insulated and reinforced floor, or we can suspend it, or we can go down to a beam and block instead, or we can put in a timber floor. I guess the choice is yours. But by selecting that one, we can then tell the software what the thickness of the slab's going to be, and if we want to, we can click in there, and it will tell us how much area of slab, we need 19.6 square meters, 12.9 meters of perimeter insulation, and then based on the size of that slab, it will be telling me or giving me a rough idea of how many hours it might need the excavator for. Again, in your own experience and your own practices, you could kind of bump that up to 8 hours for the day if that's how long you want to use it on that element. But you'll see there it's gone red because I've changed the default. So that's just the one that HPXL have come up with based on the size of that slab. I'm sure there's some nice kind of funky formula behind it, but if you do change it, it will go red, and that's just an indication that you've changed it. All right. So that's the slab done. If you want to do a mesh, a screed on top, then again you can choose some different kind of screed finishes, or you might just say not required. Might not be a screed going on top of this one. So again, you can change that. The roof is going to be a cut roof unless you specify it's going to be a truss. If you do a cut roof, you can then tell the software whether or not you're going to go up to a flat ceiling or whether or not you're going to go up to the rafters and do a vaulted ceiling. If it's all going to be nice and open planned with nice roof windows and everything else that's kind of going to go in there. All right. Just as this came up in probably about 2 demos, this comes up quite often. These graphics, by the way, sometimes do get recycled. Our kind of devs, they tend just to kind of recycle graphics. Now, that is kind of going up to the rafters, so it does ignore that ceiling. That ceiling's taken out. There's no timbers estimated for it when you select insulate to the rafters, and that just gets picked up here where we've got insulation to the ceiling, no insulation to the rafters, yes. So what it will then do is actually go up and finish off the insulation up here. All right. So don't get too confused. As I said, the dev guys tend to recycle the graphics, and all they're doing is just putting a different bit of logic on that. If it was going up to the ceiling, that would be a yes, and that would actually be a no if that was the other way around. All right. So yeah, that's the kind of estimating up the all the timbers, rafters, purlins, wall plates, the ease length, joist centers, rafter centers, all the finish on the roof, and then that's the kind of estimated as well. I mean, if you went into the estimating calculators here, you will see from the resource side of things, it's now then kind of picking up your timbers and stuff in there as well. All right, champion. Again, if you're happy, press complete, move on. There is the opportunity of putting in a solar system if the client's after one. The software does link in with a company we use called Chimera Energy. They do kind of sell solar systems, so if you do want to put a solar system in there, speak to those guys. You can allow it for in the estimate if you need to. But obviously, if you're not using it, just press complete, so it just disappears. As I said, I am going to form an opening into this existing wall. We do that by going into the structural opening section. I choose an opening to an existing wall. I can then choose the overall kind of size of it. If it's a large opening, I can select one opening, and then that will allow me to kind of put in the span, the height of the opening. It will also allow for the steel that's going to go in there as well, and you can also plaster around the opening as well. And again, if you want to change the steel size, engineers say that you need to use a slightly kind of bigger one. We've got kind of 2 lintels there either side. Lintel number 1, if I want to change that, I can go into the universal beams, and from that drop down list, there'll be different universal beams in there for me to kind of choose from. If I choose that one, that's now giving me a beam that size, 79 pounds a meter, and that will kind of change that up for me, and now put a different beam in there. All right. Cool. So that's the opening done, and that opening is actually forming in the existing connecting wall. So it's this white section, this white wall at the back, that's where it's forming that opening into. All right. That back wall as well, as I said, is actually being made good. It's plaster and skimming the interior, and it will also plaster and skim the exterior and actually add some skirtings. External doors. So this is where we're actually going to put in our crystal doors. So I'm going to go to the door section. You can put in a variety of aluminium bifolds, plastic bifolds, glass doors if you need to, double doors, French doors, patios. You can put in any type of door in here really. If you do the crystal, so what we can do is we can base it on a size of the door you're after. So if it's a 3 meter wide bifold with a U value of 1 with the either a white or a grey finish. I think grey's been quite popular at the moment. And then we can tell the software how that's going to hinge. So that cost there, 2520, is how much you get the door by going through crystal. So we can select it. It will also select the lintel, and it will also select a cavity closer for that. And then we can just tell the software how many doors we want, and then we can click 1, and then that will add the door for you. All right. Now, as I said, if we do any kind of windows and doors, if I go back up to our wall section and go into the dimensions, you'll see here it now kind of forms the opening 6.3 square meters for that door size. All right. And the same goes for any kind of windows we place. We can either place a crystal window. We don't necessarily have to use crystal, by the way. It is just an option. You can use the templated windows that we have. They do have an allowance price, but again, using the kind of resource tool, you can just swap out that window for one that you want to source yourself or the client's actually after. I guess the crystal thing makes things a little bit easier. You can base your window on a particular style the client's after. If they are just kind of center bars that are going in there, you can do them at a variety of heights. And then you can also, widths, and then you can do heights, and then U values, and then you can do colors. So we can select that one. That one's £190 above the 315. Don't ask me what the difference is. I'm sure it's just down to quality. But if you are ordering through Crystal, they can explain a little bit more about their stock than I. And then you can put in as many windows as you want. If there's 2 windows going into this extension, we can click OK. And if you want to put some sills on that, you just select the bottom treatment, select the sill, and then you can pop in the sill there as well, attach it to the window, and then that will include 2 stone sills for you as well in there. And as I said, go back up here, just double check the dimensions, and yes, it's kind of increased the overall kind of opening size. So even though you might put your window cost in there, what you might see is that the price doesn't go particularly up that much because it's taken away the brickwork that you've already estimated for the walls that you're building. All right. Happy with that? Press complete, and then I can move on. The next section is going to be roofs, windows. So if we are going to kind of vault it and put some Veluxes in here, you can do the choice of center pivots, electro manual opening, or even solar powers. If they are going to be manual opening, we could do 942s by 978s. We can do white painted finish with a extra noise reduction glass or extra low energy glass. Now that price there, that 473, is a live price coming off the Velux window website. We can also put a blind in or skip it. If you've got your own supplier for your Velux windows and you can get them cheaper, champion, overwrite the price, put whatever cost of your Velux windows are, and you can place them in there. And then just tell the software how many Velux windows you've got. Maybe we've got 3 going into that roof. Okay. So as you can see here, we're ticking boxes as we go down, making mental notes that we've done that section, and it's a case of then just kind of working from top down to bottom. We've got some walls now. If it's going to be open planned, ignore this. They are all kind of set to 0, so they won't actually be estimated unless you put a length in there. So if you aren't doing any kind of internal cavity walls, press complete. It's always zeroed out anyway. Again, if it's all open plans, you can just complete on those. But if you are putting in a stud wall, might be a small area of a stud wall, might be putting 5 meters in there for a lightweight partition wall without foundations, insulated. We can just put 5 meters in there for the studs. If you want to go and check it, you can do. Click dimensions, and then that's just going to pick up the stud wall just there. Plasters both sides, skirting both sides, and then the stud walls the kind of estimated for. Any kind of sleeper walls you might have to kind of put in there, again, they can be estimated. If you're not, just press complete. And if you're putting any kind of doors into that into those walls, so we can do some 762s into studding. We've got one door that's maybe going in there, and then we can actually tell it's going into this uninsulated partition stud wall. Okay, this room tool, pretty handy. Say for example, we've got 5.5 meters there and 4 meters there, and this is just going to be a nice open planned room. What I can do, I can actually kind of set the room. We're going to go up to a vaulted ceiling. We're going to call this family room we're actually building for them. And what I can do, I can actually work out what the internal dimensions of that room is, whether or not it's going to be like 4.3 or whatever it's going to be for length, 3.85 for width. It's 2.5 high wall with a pitch roof of 20. I can link the openings to that room. Okay, so I can put all the openings in there. So that will then kind of take away any openings to the overall dimensions of the room. And then what I can then do, I can actually add some electrical items for that living space. Now what it does do, it kind of defaults the fact that we're doing a family room. So one thing it does do, it for some reason or other, it kind of adds a ceiling rose. If you're not actually adding one in there, it's all going to be open plan with the lanterns or roof windows. You can just take them out. You can leave the light switches. You might want to reduce them. Maybe you've got 2 light switches either end, and maybe you're going to increase the overall wall lights to 4. Okay. If you were doing, if you want to add any other kind of lighting to that, you could just put some downlighters on there. You can put whatever you like in there, really. But what it will also do is actually add 3 sockets. So you've got 3 double sockets. It might be a case you might want to mix it up. Maybe we've got a single socket down there, or some of these double sockets. What they want is the one with the USB switches. So what I can do, I can maybe kind of reduce that to 2 of those, and then we've got or even double up on the USB ones, and reduce that down to 1. So you can put as many sockets and stuff in there as you want to, and it's also going to allow for a TV point. And you can also add the plumbing items in there. So we can say it's going to be a family room pipe feeds. And then that will pick up the overall area. And what that just then allows for is your gas pipes, radiator tails. It does default it with a gas fire, but if you're not using a gas fire, you can take that one out. So that's us now kind of treating the internal room now. You can do other stuff to that. You can do some fitting out. And what we can do is maybe they want some stone floor putting down. Or they might have an engineered wood floor, or you might be putting in electric underfloor heating. So you can actually treat that room. Maybe you're tiling it as well. It's up to you, really. And if you put that's going to go in across the floor. Whether or not you're actually going to have an installed digital thermostat. No one likes manual ones anymore. Everyone wants a nice smart one. And then we can apply an underfloor heat to that as well. Okay. Now what this room section is good for as well is if you've actually got the extension and you've got some other renovation stuff going on around it, you can actually use this section here. Let's say we go up to their master bedroom. It's got a bit of an L shape going to it, so we can actually measure around the bedroom, give it a height, actually add some openings. Let's see, add the sorry, edit that. It's 2.1 meters high. It's 900 mil across. That's the internal door. We can also pop in a window. Let's say the window height is about 1.2 by about 1.8, and that's actually going to be a window. So we form two new or existing openings in there. And then what we can do is actually go into the renovation section, and then we can go in and do an internal renovation to that room. We can either hackle the walls, or we can replaster the skirt, or we can just do a reskim. Maybe we're doing a reskim where we're fixing cornices and just doing a redecorate. So if you select that, that will then kind of treat that room as described. So that picks up the door size, removes the architraves, removes the threshold strips, removes skirtings, replaces them if required, or you might want to refit them. Picks up the door, changes the window board over. Oh, actually, no, it's leaving that. Well, if you do want to kind of change that, we can. If we want to form an opening into the existing bedroom, maybe we're knocking through into a new bath ensuite, then we can form an opening into the existing wall. And then we can treat the ceiling as well. And then that will kind of treat their master bedroom. And you can just create all these different room shapes, different scenarios, different descriptions, how you want to take care of them and make good. So that room tool is quite clever. Again, a bit of a confusing area whenever I speak to a lot of builders. Developers like to leave this bit in. It's just in case you're actually doing any additional plastering to any other part of the build. Bear in mind, up here, we have allowed for the plastering and the decoration throughout all the new stuff anyway. This is only if you're actually doing any kind of additional plastering and decoration. So if we're not doing that, just press complete. If you want to put up individual steels, you can do it. We have already kind of formed an opening anyway, so I'm just going to ignore that. Walling sundries. I think one of the questions came up about cladding. So the walling sundries allows you to kind of apply either a horizontal timber clad, a vertical timber clad, or a tile clad instead. So we can cover that quite easily. All right. Or if you are putting in any kind of dental course, chimneys, soldier coursing, anything around that, then you can add that to the external side. Renovation and demolition. So there is a renovation and demolition section. If you are doing any kind of internal stuff, when you do select it, it does ask if you want to use the room tool to kind of apply that. Or if you're actually knocking a wall down, you can demolish a wall and then put in the, if it's going to be an internal partition or a small area of an external wall. If that's the case, that's just going to kind of pick up the overall dimensions of the wall, what the existing thickness is, whether or not you want to take up the foundations, and then how many days and stuff you might need to break it, etc. for. Plumbing can be done in the room section, or you can actually add as a kind of a bulk item. You can add them there. Electrics again can be added as the kind of bulk items or into individual living spaces using the room tool. I probably prefer it that way. And again, fitting out can be added to the room section as well. Drainage can be added as an individual item. So if you're putting in drain runs, deep manholes, inspection chambers, or save you a bit of time, you can go into add a group. If you are doing an extension, there's a couple of groups in here with some predefined allowances, back inlet gully connected to a shallow access chamber, or you might be doing one where it's got a back inlet gully and one soil and vent pipe connected to two shallow access chambers. If that's the case, just click OK, and that will kind of pre-populate a list for you with all your drainage items in there that you've just told it to, and they can all be adjusted whatever lengths and stuff you want to kind of adjust them to. Any kind of external works you guys get involved in, if you want to put down a patio, you can do, or a path. So if you are kind of going a little bit kind of further out by laying down a patio, you'll have calculators in here to kind of do it, as well as landscaping as well. Maybe you're putting down some decking or some garden walls you're building, or panel fencing. You can apply them there. Preliminaries and sundries, big thing at the moment, obviously. Hopefully we're kind of getting to the point of getting past it, but I imagine it might continue for some time, especially around making sure that the site is COVID controlled. What you can do is you can put in a small extension allowance for your COVID items, i.e. Social distancing vests, face masks, washable masks, gloves, face visors, helmets, hand sanitizer stations, refills, bottles, disinfectant sprays, paper towels, number of bins, might have to have the toilet for an additional 7 weeks, signage, all these things are starting to have an impact on the overall cost of an estimate now. And again, it's about demonstrating to the client you're taking these responsibilities seriously. You're allowing for all this, all these kind of COVID controls, making sure someone's on site, additional kind of site supervision, making sure everyone's complying with the COVID risk assessments and health and safety policy requirements. What you can also add in there, and what a lot of builders I speak to don't allow for, is travel costs, or even just establishing a site, or even putting up the old scaffolds. It's a cost. Stick it in. We can do a scaffold for a single-story extension, and that will then just give you an allowance there for the scaffold, how many extra days, weeks, cost if there's any. We can also do a site establishment where we establish a small extension site without the customer letting us use the bathroom. So what we have to do is provide site toilet. Might need a cabin, might not. Might need a cabin for a few weeks, or zero that one out. And then that kind of gives you skip permits if you need to suspend the bay, etc. And your overall kind of insurance, site security, health and safety costs. And travel costs, running a van to and from site, it has its kind of cost, especially when it kind of gives up or breaks down or gets damaged. So what we can do is we can whack in 1,000 miles a job or 800 miles a job, just to allow for wear and tear on the old van. Same for any kind of parking fees. You might be getting hit with the daily parking fee. Could be about 10 days of fees. Could be as little as a £5, but it will kind of add up, and you can allow it for it in the estimate. If you have any kind of specialist contractors coming in, you can put them in as a fixed cost. If you're not doing the plumbing and heating yourself, or you're getting a contractor in to do it, you can actually put in the electrical and also the plumb contractor there, and then put a cost in for first and second fixes. And as I said, if you want to, you can actually add an additional template that can be found at the bottom. If you want to add a garage, we can then go and pick the garage shape and then estimate that exactly how we've just done the extension, but the actual overall price will then be increased to include the garage. So there we go, got to the bottom of the list with me kind of blabbering on. Everything's kind of complete, happy with that. And you can see there now the price has gone up to 53,225, including the your overall kind of profit and overhead. Want to make sure that when we kind of present the estimate, got the client's details on there. If you've done the job for the client before, it will remember those details. They'll be in there, so we can apply that across the job. If you want to make any kind of assumptions or omissions on the estimate, so you can write them into the quote, any assumptions you've made, or certainly things you've not allowed for that you're not doing. We've omitted certain things, we can add them there. Or if you want to put any kind of provisional sums onto the quote, you can put the provisional sums in there with the cost, and it will put a line on the the quote. So what we then do is click on the main estimate. This will kind of give me a bit more of a kind of an overview of what we've estimated. So it'll kind of give me more of a kind of a look at brick and block cavity wall cost 10.5. My roof 6.1, bifold doors 3.1. Those COVID control costs, just by putting in all your masks and signage and toilets and site supervision, that's actually just jumped to just under £3,000. Our underfloor heating's in there. Putting in 800 miles, I can't remember, was it 1,000 miles? £1,200 for travel costs, so wear and tear on the van. And then down to breaking walls down and stuff, we've got a cost in there as well. So everything's kind of itemised, everything's kind of estimated. If you do want to kind of go into any of these sections, I always find it easier doing it on the left-hand side. You can drop that little menu down and just go into external walls. And again, you can kind of go into here, sense check things, make sure it kind of looks, feels right. It's got the right materials in here. So we can have a look at, you can see the bricks have actually reduced now. We've got the openings in there. And if you want to change anything, we can just right click and change resources from within this section if you want to make any changes. On the main estimate as well, the job overview gives you a bit of a, as I said, developers love a pie chart. Got 20 grand in there for materials, 17,054 for labour, and you've also got your build phases there kind of listed. And overall, if you want to kind of set this job as being awaiting a customer reply, again, that will kind of appear on your dashboards just as a highlight to say that you need to chase them up and find out where they are. What it will also do is provide a build program for those that like to have something to show either yourself or the client as a mark of project management. So what that's now kind of doing is actually laying out the job with all the build phases kind of interlinked with each other. These can all be kind of either moved up or kind of shortened down. All right, and you can actually move them as well if you want to grab them and move and kind of adjust those. Wrong one. Once that's done, we can then go into the all-important quotes. So click on the quote for the main estimate. So that's the quote now loaded. Client's details are all mapped to it. I've got my company logo loaded. That can be kind of done on this right-hand side here, covering page logo. Just go browse for your image, load your image up, and then you can adjust that image as well. You can adjust the size of it, where it's going to sit, right, left, center. It's completely down to you. We scroll down, and then the next page is actually a nice kind of letter. We can present, again, the letter can be edited on the right-hand side. You can change the wording in there. That's just our own kind of text, but you can kind of overwrite that with your own, the way that you like to present your own quotes. Include your own kind of letterhead. So if you have got your own letterhead or can get a copy of it, you can make sure that your own letterhead is appearing at the top of every page. The client knows exactly who's provided the estimate. Overall summary. This just kind of gives a list of the build phases, just with a kind of a summary here. It's got a price in there. That now includes the VAT. If you want to change that, you can actually put that summary, by the way, at the end of the quote. Or for those that don't like the summary, I have had a bit of feedback on that before. You can just untick that, apply changes, and that will get rid of the summary screen. So you don't have to necessarily show it. But it might be helpful, especially to your clients. Maybe that's what they like. We want to make sure as well, maybe this job isn't going to start for a few months. So I want to make sure that I'm going to include my 3% inflation. So my price is 63,870. If I apply that change, by the way, by clicking that button, it's now kind of just jumped up a little bit to allow for that extra cost for materials, etc. Moving forwards. You can change the VAT rate depending on the type of job you're doing as well. By scrolling down now, it starts going into the actual build phases. You do get a little kind of the description here. All right. You can see that we're now kind of demonstrating to the customer that we're allowing for all the kind of COVID control costs. All right. Again, if you don't want to kind of show that, you can just tell the software to take that out of the overall estimate and then apply changes. Well, it will still be there. It's just not going to get shown on the quote here. All right, it just gets rid of the text. Just site setup is 6475, so that didn't actually change. Internal preparation, demolition, drains. It will then start looking at foundations, and as you can see there, we've got the materials and stuff that are kind of going in there. Extension slab, masonry shell. That's the, looks like I spelled customer wrong, but the bricks above the DPC, because I changed it to a customer friendly description, you can see there it's got the customer brick that I put in there. Scaffold, roof structure. Now it's kind of listing the timbers. So as I said, to get a nice kind of detailed breakdown of the estimate. Now, if you don't want to show it, you don't have to. In the settings on the right hand side, I can actually tell the software that I don't want to show, or I want to hide resources. If I click apply, that will kind of get rid of the resources and then just kind of give them this kind of overview. If you don't like the pictures, again, I've had a bit of feedback about the pictures. Unfortunately, I don't develop software, so we can take the images out and we can then just give them this kind of page here. It does kind of shorten it all down a little bit. All right. But depends on the client, depends on how much information you want to provide, really. And then down here, they get an acceptance of the estimate form. They can sign off. They're happy with it. You get a copy as well that they've done it. And then you can leave them with your terms and conditions. You can copy and paste it into that box. That'll appear on the quote. If you want to save this view, by the way, if this is the view that you want to kind of show them every time as your default, just save it to library, and that will overwrite your kind of your default to this particular view. So you don't have to keep changing it every single time you do an estimate. As I said, the other things that you can find in here as well is your reports. I mentioned the materials order schedule report. So if you want to know how when you need to order your materials by, clicking this report here, it will load up, and that's now kind of telling you when you need to order your materials by, because they're actually going to come in on this build phase. So yeah, so you need to kind of get all your disinfectant sprays and stuff on this job for your site setup. Your drains need to be ordered, masonry shell, your bricks, etc., your cavity insulation. You've all got an order date, and that's all driven by your material lead times. So if you do alter them, you'll get an honest reflection of when you need to order your materials by. Any of these reports can be exported, Excel spreadsheet, CSV formats. If you are kind of going to import them into other systems. Labour time schedules, again, labour report instead of a material report. So that's going to be telling you how many hours, etc., are we going to go into the job. So we've got, if you can all see down there, 542 hours is being estimated to actually put this extension together. All right, and that's just all based on the amount, the estimated rates. So again, if you do modify them, that will be changed down there. An all important sales price, including overhead and profit. How much are we actually making? How much is we're actually assigning to allow for my overheads? Can be clicked on there once it kind of opens. Some of these reports are a bit data heavy, so they do take a couple of seconds to load. But you got your overall profit 8.5, and then you got your overhead cost there at 2128. Okay, cool. That's about it, really. As I said, I will try and answer some of the questions. So we'll have a little. Let's have a look what we've got. Okay, first question. Obviously, talking about changing it to a day rate. The way the software kind of estimates it, kind of as you saw in the job here. Let me just go into Waltz. So the way the software is kind of aggregating the amount of hours that are going into the job, it is a kind of an estimate. So obviously we all do kind of work on days, but the way that this is actually working out is kind of that's not the right one. Go to the Labour Brady down here. So let's, for example, take that laying the bricks above the DPC, the two brickies and the mates. We're saying it takes an hour for them to do 1.6 square meters. If you're actually saying maybe it's you can kind of change it in here. Say it's going to take 1 day to do let's say 10 square meters of laying brick above the DPC. You'll see the overall kind of hours haven't really kind of changed. Now, if you do kind of click OK on that and go back in, that does kind of change it back to the hourly rate anyway. So this is the way it's kind of calculating. I mean, it doesn't matter if you put like a day in there and they're actually doing 6 square meters an hour. That's going to take 41 hours to do, regardless of what that's going to kind of do. So you can change the way that the software then kind of calculates on the build program. You can actually set that to kind of a day rate and stuff, and that will give you an overall kind of time period on the build program. But it will kind of accumulate how many hours are actually going to go into the project. All right. So yeah, it's the way that the software has actually been kind of set up on these kind of hourly rates. But if you are charging by the day, just divide by 8, and then you'll arrive at the cost. I think I might have covered the cladding, so hopefully that's the kind of cover that question. You can apply a vertical or horizontal timber clad or even a tile clad. Yeah, so obviously this is kind of looking at if we are doing electrical sockets, then it is actually allowing the electrician to come in and do that. It's kind of given an allowance to actually fit it. If you are just kind of putting in a subcontractor, then I wouldn't be doing any of the general kind of installation. That would be kind of deleted from my job. And then I think I might have kind of touched on it. You can where is it? Yeah, I'm gonna have to go back into the quote template. So I'd actually add a subcontract price to that at the very, very bottom section. So I wouldn't even be touching installing the sockets. I'd be leaving that to the contractor to do it. So let me just go back into this while I'm thinking about it. Yes, that's a good question about I'll come to that once we cover this subcontractor. So if I go down to the subcontract quotes, open that up, add an electrical contractor. So this is assuming I haven't actually added any of the sockets. So item used for, I can call it electric first fix here if I want to, and then we can put the price in there. I don't know what that's going to cost, say £1,000. And then we can do electrical first fix as a build phase, and then I can add another electric, and we can call that, if we want to, second fix. Oh. We can do second fix. Again, we did that, so let's call that 500 quid or whatever it's going to be. And then we can call that electric second fix as a build phase. I can do that with a plumbing as well. So that's how you would actually add a subcontractor price into the estimate. And then it's going to come out on the quote as the kind of on the kind of first and second fix. It'll then just have a fixed cost on that. So that's how you would do that. Once we save this job, always good to kind of save. It does back up though, which is good. So if you do have a power outage or your laptop keels over, it does kind of back up your work as you're estimating it. And because we've used Crystal as well, by the way, that will kind of ping a quote over to Crystal, and that's kind of got their materials in there. So that will actually send an email through the software to Crystal to say, is there any chance of ordering these? But once the job's been saved, if you go into just on the dashboards where you've got jobs, so if you've got a job that's very, very similar in size, finish, what I can do, I can actually just copy that job over. I can call it a slightly kind of different name, but it's just making a copy of that one. And then again, I can change the client's details in here. It's going to be for somebody else, or it could be for the same guy. And then we can click OK, and then that's going to make a carbon copy of that estimate. I can then go in and just tweak some of the settings to make life easy, and that's what it's all about, really, is just trying to make life easier. I mean, in today's demo, I'm just kind of scratching the surface. There's a lot more to the software, which as you kind of learn the software, you can really kind of explore and modify and change. You can create your own stuff in here. There's the ability of actually kind of creating your own kind of calculators and saving them as templates. If you're building a swimming pool, for example, not something that's kind of standard in the software, but it is something that you can kind of create yourself, add materials, add labor, save it as a swimming pool calculator, and then that's going to be something that will be in your library to reuse on another job that you might have to build another swimming pool. I guess probably don't get asked for it too often in the UK, but there is the odd occasion that it does kind of come up. All right. Yeah, so I think that's all the questions answered, unless anybody's got anything else to add. But we will be, as I said, we have recorded it, so we'll definitely get a copy out to you. We do host them on YouTube, so we'll get a copy over to you, and I'll probably follow up with you guys over the next few days, answer any questions you have over the phone, and we can obviously kind of take it from there. Just to kind of give everyone a bit of information, we are currently celebrating our 21st year, so there was an offer we were broadcasting today, which is 21% off any perpetual lifetime licenses, or you can get an additional 2 months subscription if you go down the annual subscription route. But I can discuss that in more detail if you're kind of interested in getting some costs I can send over. All right. So yeah, going to wrap up now. Thank you very much for your attendance this afternoon. It's very much appreciated. If anybody wants to go through this again, my colleague Matthew's running this at 7 o'clock tonight. He's not as exciting as me, but I don't know, if you want to check out his demo, he might do things a little bit differently, explain things a little bit differently. You might get a slightly kind of different edge on things, but I'm sure we'll catch up very soon. All right. So take care, guys. Keep safe, and we'll speak to you very soon. So take care. Cheers. Bye bye.